What if I told you that in just 90 days, you could completely change the trajectory of your life? Imagine waking up each morning with unstoppable energy, clear purpose, and the confidence that nothing can hold you back. Sounds impossible. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have a concrete 90-day plan to turn your dreams into reality. When it comes to transforming your life and becoming unstoppable, there's one foundational principle that will make everything else easier, more focused, and more effective, and that principle is clarity. Clarity is the secret weapon of every high achiever, every successful entrepreneur, every leader who has ever accomplished a seemingly impossible goal. Without clarity, your goals, your dreams, and even your daily actions are like a ship drifting at sea without a compass. You may move, you may act, but you won't know whether you're heading toward the shore you've imagined or just spinning in circles. Clarity is the lens through which all your efforts are focused, and it is the spark that ignites momentum. Now, I want you to really think about your life for a moment. Where are you right now? Are you waking up each day with a sense of purpose, a clear vision of what you want, and a roadmap for how to get there? Or are you just going through the motions, letting days, weeks, and months slip by, wondering why your life hasn't changed despite your efforts? The truth is, most people struggle not because they lack talent, opportunity, or even discipline, but because they lack clarity. They know they want more success, more fulfillment, more freedom, but they can't articulate exactly what that more looks like. And without a crystal clear picture of the destination, even the best laid plans can get lost along the way. Clarity begins with asking yourself the hard questions. What do you really want in your life? Not what others expect of you, not what society says you should achieve, but what you truly desire at the deepest level of your heart. Take a moment and imagine your ideal life. Picture it in vivid detail. What does a perfect day look like for you? What are you doing when you wake up in the morning? Who are you spending time with? What are your health, finances, and relationships like? What does success feel like? The more specific you can get, the better. This is not a vague daydream. This is the blueprint for the life you're about to design. Many people underestimate the power of writing things down. There's a profound difference between thinking about your goals and committing them to paper. Writing crystallizes thought. It forces you to confront contradictions, clarify priorities, and articulate your vision in a way that your brain can fully process. Studies show that people who write down their goals are far more likely to achieve them than those who simply keep them in their heads. When you write your goals, you create a contract with yourself, a promise that you are no longer passively wishing for a better life. You are intentionally moving toward it. Clarity also gives you focus. When your vision is clear, it acts like a magnifying glass, concentrating your energy on the things that truly matter and filtering out the distractions that can derail your progress. Imagine trying to hit a target while blindfolded. You might swing wildly, hoping to land somewhere near it. But when you remove the blindfold, when you can see the target with perfect clarity, your actions become precise, intentional, and unstoppable. Every decision you make, every action you take can be measured against your vision. Does this choice move me closer to the life I want, or does it pull me away? Clarity gives you the power to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what accelerates your journey. One of the most powerful aspects of clarity is how it fuels motivation. When you are crystal clear on what you want, the why behind your efforts becomes undeniable. You wake up in the morning not because you have to, but because you want to. The vision of your desired future creates a magnetic pull, compelling you to act even when you don't feel like it. This is how ordinary people do extraordinary things, by letting clarity drive their focus, commitment, and persistence. It's what separates those who talk about change from those who actually achieve it. Let's also talk about the role of clarity in overcoming fear and doubt. When your goals are vague, fear has free rein. Uncertainty breeds hesitation, which leads to procrastination and eventually inaction. But when you are clear about what you want, fear loses its grip. You know exactly what you are aiming for, and every step you take becomes a statement of courage. Clear goals allow you to break down massive challenges into manageable steps. You stop being paralyzed by the enormity of the task and start seeing actionable pathways to success. Every obstacle becomes a problem to solve rather than a reason to quit. Clarity is also intimately tied to confidence. When you know where you're going and why, confidence naturally follows. You stop second guessing yourself, doubting your abilities, or waiting for the perfect moment. You operate with certainty, knowing that each action you take, no matter how small, is aligned with your vision. Confidence is not arrogance. It's the quiet assurance that you are moving intentionally, and that assurance is contagious. It inspires others to believe in you and encourages you to tackle challenges you might have once considered impossible. Another critical aspect of clarity is that it allows you to measure progress. When you have a clear destination, you can track whether you are moving closer to it or drifting away. This measurement is vital because it keeps you accountable, forces course corrections, and provides motivation through tangible results. Small wins along the way become milestones that reinforce your belief in your ability to achieve bigger goals. Every step forward, no matter how minor, is proof that your vision is not just a dream, it's becoming reality. Clarity also encourages simplicity in your life. Many people fail to achieve their dreams because they overcomplicate their plans or chase too many goals at once. When you are clear on your priorities, you can strip away the noise, focus your energy, and devote yourself fully to what truly matters. This focused simplicity is incredibly liberating. It allows you to channel your energy, creativity, and resources into the areas that yield the greatest impact instead of being scattered and overwhelmed by endless distractions. And let's not forget the power of visualization. Clarity isn't just intellectual, it's also emotional. When you clearly visualize your goals, you create a mental image that your brain begins to treat as achievable reality. This visualization process engages your subconscious mind, primes your emotions, and strengthens your commitment. Athletes do this before every game, entrepreneurs do it before launching new ventures, and leaders do it before taking bold actions. Seeing it clearly in your mind makes achieving it in real life far more likely. Finally, clarity is not static, it evolves. As you grow, learn, and achieve milestones, your vision may shift, and that's okay. The key is to revisit your goals regularly, refine them, and adjust your path. This dynamic clarity ensures that you are always moving in the direction of your evolving dreams, rather than being stuck in a vision that no longer serves you. It's a living, breathing process of self, discovery, intentionality, and focused action that fuels unstoppable progress once you've gained clarity about what you truly want in life. The next step is understanding the extraordinary power of small wins. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. The idea that you can completely change your life in a single giant leap is a myth that leaves most people frustrated and defeated. Real, lasting transformation is built step by step, day by day, through the consistent accumulation of small victories. It's the principle of compound growth applied to life itself. Every choice, every habit, every tiny action you take, when repeated consistently, compounds into significant results over time. The challenge and the beauty of this principle is that it requires patience and persistence. Think about the analogy of saving money. If you save just a few dollars each day, you might not notice a huge difference at first, but over months and years, the power of compound interest turns those small contributions into substantial wealth. The same principle applies to personal growth, to building habits, and to achieving goals. A single push-up done today won't make you fit. A single hour of studying won't make you an expert. A single act of courage won't change your life. But the accumulation of these actions, consistently applied over days, weeks, and months, produces exponential results. This is why the 90-day plan works so well. It's long enough to create momentum, but short enough to remain intensely focused. The beauty of small wins is that they are tangible and achievable. Big goals can feel overwhelming and sometimes even paralyzing. If your goal is to run a marathon, the thought of running 2 miles can feel impossible. But if you break it down into daily actions, running 1 mile, then 2, then 3, you start to see progress. Each completed mile builds confidence, develops discipline, and reinforces your belief that the larger goal is achievable. The journey becomes less about the intimidating distance and more about the manageable steps that carry you there. This is why focusing on small wins is so critical. It turns lofty dreams into achievable reality. Small wins also create momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. Momentum is what makes hard things feel easier as you continue. It's what allows an ordinary person to do extraordinary things once they start moving in the right direction. When you take consistent action, even if it's small, you create energy and confidence that propels you forward. Each win, no matter how minor, validates your effort and strengthens your motivation. Momentum doesn't care about size, it cares about direction. If you are consistently moving toward your goals, the universe seems to conspire with you, opening doors and creating opportunities that were invisible when you were stagnant. One of the most common mistakes people make is underestimating the significance of small actions. They wait for motivation to strike, believing that one monumental effort will change everything. But motivation is fleeting. It's inconsistent, unpredictable, and often unreliable. What really drives lasting change is discipline, the choice to take action even when you don't feel like it. Small wins are the building blocks of this discipline. By consistently doing the things that matter, even when they feel insignificant, you create habits that eventually require less effort and produce more results. The compounding effect of these habits is unstoppable over time. It's also important to recognize the psychological power of small wins. Human beings are wired to respond to progress. When we accomplish something, even if it's minor, it releases dopamine in our brains, a chemical that reinforces the behavior and motivates us to continue. This is why breaking large goals into smaller milestones is so effective. Each small win reinforces confidence, reduces overwhelm, and fuels motivation to keep moving forward. Success, even on a small scale, builds a sense of identity. When you consistently take action and achieve small wins, you start seeing yourself as the type of person who gets things done, who can persevere, who can overcome obstacles. This shift in identity is far more powerful than any single act of willpower. Another critical aspect of small wins is that they help you refine your process. As you consistently take action, you learn what works and what doesn't. You develop a sense of what strategies are effective and which ones waste energy. These small adjustments, applied consistently, compound alongside your victories, creating a feedback loop of learning, growth, and improvement. Over time, this iterative process produces mastery in your chosen area. The compounding effect of small wins is not just about output. It's about improvement, refinement, and becoming more efficient and effective at achieving your goals. Let's also consider the role of accountability in small wins. When you track progress and measure results, you are far more likely to follow through. Small wins are measurable. If your goal is personal fitness, keeping a log of daily workouts, even just 15 minutes a day, allows you to see patterns of consistency. If your goal is learning, marking off each chapter or module you complete reinforces the tangible steps you are taking toward mastery. Tracking small wins doesn't just provide evidence of progress, it creates a sense of pride and reinforces the behaviors that lead to greater achievements. Stories of extraordinary success are often rooted in the principle of small wins. Take, for example, someone who started a business with no resources and no experience. Their first sale might have been small, their first month modest, their first challenges overwhelming. Yet, by consistently taking action, learning from mistakes, and celebrating every small victory, they built momentum. Over time, those small wins compounded into a thriving enterprise. Or consider the story of an individual who wanted to improve health and fitness. They didn't begin by overhauling their life overnight. They started with small changes, drinking more water, walking a little each day, adjusting portions, tracking progress. Each small win reinforced the next, and eventually they achieved a transformation that seemed impossible when viewed from the starting line. These stories are not unique. They illustrate a universal principle: small, consistent actions compound into extraordinary results. It's also important to acknowledge that small wins aren't always glamorous. They often feel ordinary, repetitive, or even boring. But this is where most people give up. They are waiting for dramatic breakthroughs that rarely happen. The key to becoming unstoppable is to embrace the mundane, to recognize that the ordinary steps you take each day, no matter how small, are the very foundation of extraordinary success. Consistency beats intensity every time. A single, consistent action done daily is far more powerful than a sporadic, monumental effort. Small wins also build resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges are inevitable. When you've developed the habit of pursuing consistent action and accumulating small victories, you become equipped to handle setbacks. Each small win becomes a reminder of your capacity to act, adapt, and persevere. Over time, this resilience becomes a core part of your identity, a protective shield that allows you to maintain forward momentum even in the face of difficulty. You begin to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to apply your skills, your habits, and your consistency in new ways. Finally, small wins foster a sense of gratitude and fulfillment. When you pause to acknowledge each step forward, each victory, no matter how minor, you cultivate a mindset of abundance. You stop focusing solely on what hasn't been achieved and start celebrating what has. This positive reinforcement fuels further action, reinforcing the compounding effect. Gratitude for progress, coupled with the momentum of small wins, creates a self-sustaining cycle of growth, confidence, and unstoppable forward motion. As you begin to take consistent action toward your dreams, as you start stacking small wins on top of one another, you will inevitably encounter something that challenges even the most determined person: fear. Fear is the silent, invisible barrier that keeps many people from becoming unstoppable. It doesn't announce itself with a warning sign or a neon light. It sneaks in quietly, disguising itself as hesitation, procrastination, doubt, or even rational caution. Fear is not just an emotion. It is resistance in its most subtle, most insidious form. And if you don't learn to recognize it and confront it, it will hold you back from achieving the life you're capable of living. The first step in overcoming fear and resistance is to acknowledge it. Most people try to avoid fear, pretending it doesn't exist, hoping it will disappear on its own. But fear is like a shadow. It only grows larger when you turn your back to it. To conquer fear, you must shine a light on it. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of in this moment? Is it failure, rejection, embarrassment, or the uncertainty of stepping outside my comfort zone? Naming the fear is a powerful first step because it turns the abstract, overwhelming sensation of dread into something tangible that you can address. Once fear has a name, it loses some of its power over you. Fear often masquerades as rational thinking. You might tell yourself, I can't start this project because I don't have enough experience, or I shouldn't take that leap because I might fail, or I'll wait until the timing is perfect. These are just stories your mind tells itself to justify an action. The truth is, perfect timing rarely exists and failure is never final. Fear thrives on these stories because they provide a comfortable excuse to stay stuck. One of the keys to becoming unstoppable is learning to see through these stories and recognize them for what they are, illusions that delay your progress. The second step in overcoming fear is action. This may seem counterintuitive because fear feels paralyzing, but the only way through fear is through it. Action is the antidote to fear. When you take a step forward, no matter how small, you break the grip fear has on you. Each act of courage, no matter how minor, chips away at resistance and strengthens your confidence. It's not about eliminating fear altogether. Fear is a normal human emotion, but about refusing to let it dictate your decisions. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the commitment to act in spite of it. One of the most effective strategies for facing fear is what I like to call leaning into discomfort. Growth does not happen inside your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is cozy, predictable, and safe, but it's also a cage that prevents you from realizing your potential. Every time you take action that stretches your limits, you expand your comfort zone. It could be having a difficult conversation, pursuing a challenging opportunity, or putting yourself in a situation where failure is possible. Each act of leaning into discomfort is a deliberate training of your courage muscle. Over time, what once felt terrifying begins to feel manageable, and what once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Fear also thrives on uncertainty. When you don't know the outcome, when the path ahead is unclear, your mind fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. This is why having clarity and small wins, as we discussed in the previous keynotes, is so important. When you know exactly what you want and you are consistently moving toward it, fear loses some of its power. You may still feel anxious, but anxiety no longer dictates your choices. The combination of clarity and action creates a buffer against the paralyzing effects of fear. Another powerful tool to overcome fear is reframing failure. Most people avoid action because they equate failure with defeat, embarrassment, or inadequacy. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is a necessary part of the journey toward it. Each failure is feedback, a signal that something needs adjustment, refinement, or a different approach. Some of the most successful people in history failed countless times before achieving their goals. They didn't let failure define them, they let it guide them. When you embrace failure as a teacher rather than a threat, fear loses much of its power. Resistance is not always external, it often comes from within. Self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and negative self-talk are some of the most persistent forms of resistance you will face. These internal barriers whisper, "You're not good enough, you can't do this," or "You'll never succeed." The key to overcoming this resistance is to actively challenge these thoughts. Ask yourself, are these beliefs based on fact, Or are they just assumptions and stories I've been telling myself? Replace self-doubt with evidence of your capability, however small. Remember the small wins we talked about. Each one is proof that you are capable of more than you thought. Visualization is another technique that can help overcome fear and resistance. When you mentally rehearse taking action despite fear, you prepare your mind and body for success. Athletes do this before competitions, speakers do this before presentations, and leaders do this before bold decisions. Visualization strengthens your confidence and reduces anxiety because your mind has already practiced courage. By repeatedly imagining yourself facing fear and taking action, you condition yourself to act decisively when the real moment arrives. Accountability is a powerful way to combat resistance. Fear often thrives in isolation. When you face challenges alone, your mind magnifies risks and doubts. But when you share your goals, your fears, and your action plans with someone you trust, a mentor, a friend, or an accountability partner, you create external reinforcement. Someone else's encouragement, perspective, and belief in you can counterbalance your own doubts. They can remind you of your capabilities when you forget, and they can hold you accountable to keep moving forward, even when fear tempts you to retreat. Stories of courage and triumph illustrate how overcoming fear leads to transformation. Consider the individual who dreamed of starting a business but was paralyzed by fear of failure. Each day, fear whispered, "You're not ready." But they took one small action, reaching out to a potential client, learning a new skill, or writing a business plan. Each step built confidence, reduced resistance, and propelled them towards success. Or think about someone who wanted to improve their health, but feared the effort required. They started with small changes, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, adjusting their diet, walking a few extra minutes each day. Over time, the accumulation of these courageous steps transformed their health, their energy, and their sense of self. Another key point is recognizing that fear often signals growth. If something scares you, it's often because it matters. The areas where we feel most fear are usually the areas with the greatest potential for transformation. Instead of avoiding fear, use it as a compass pointing toward the opportunities that will stretch you, strengthen you, and elevate you. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to follow the path that fear is pointing to, knowing that the reward lies beyond the discomfort. Finally, it's essential to understand that overcoming fear and resistance is a daily practice. It's not a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. Fear will return, resistance will arise, and challenges will always appear. But each time you confront them, each time you act despite fear, you strengthen your resilience, your confidence, and your capacity to take on even bigger challenges. The journey toward becoming unstoppable is paved with moments of courage, repeated consistently over time, building a foundation that fear and resistance can no longer shake. If you've gained clarity, started stacking small wins, and begun to face fear with courage, you might think you're unstoppable, but there's another critical factor that will either accelerate your progress or quietly sabotage your environment. The people, places, and systems around you shape your behaviors, influence your mindset, and determine the trajectory of your success far more than you may realize. If you want to transform your life in 90 days and achieve your dreams, you cannot do it alone, and you cannot do it in isolation. The environment you create, physically, mentally, and socially, will either propel you forward or hold you back. Your environment begins with the people you surround yourself with. There's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and this is more than just a catchy phrase. It's a principle rooted in psychology and human behavior. The thoughts, attitudes, and actions of those around you subtly shape your own. If you surround yourself with people who are negative, complacent, or critical, their mindset will slowly seep into yours, whether you realize it or not. Conversely, when you surround yourself with people who are ambitious, disciplined, supportive, and solution-oriented, you absorb their energy, adopt their habits, and raise your own standards. This doesn't mean cutting everyone out who isn't perfect. It means being intentional about who influences your life most significantly. Building a supportive environment isn't just about who you spend time with. It's also about the systems and structures you create, the way your day is organized, the tools you use, and the routines you follow all contribute to your environment. Consider your workspace. Is it organized, inspiring, and conducive to focused action, or is it cluttered, distracting, and chaotic? Your physical environment sends a message to your brain about what is possible. A clean, intentional space encourages clarity, productivity, and creativity, while a disorganized space fosters stress, distraction, and procrastination. Similarly, the digital environment matters. The content you consume, the social media you scroll, and the notifications you allow into your life shape your thoughts and your energy. Curating your environment to support your growth is not optional, it's essential. Mentorship and guidance are another cornerstone of a supportive environment. Even the most determined, self-motivated people need mentors. A mentor is someone who has walked the path before you, someone who can provide perspective, challenge your thinking, and hold you accountable. The right mentor accelerates your growth by helping you avoid common pitfalls and offering wisdom that would otherwise take years to acquire through trial and error. When you invest in mentorship, you're not just learning strategies, you're absorbing the mindset and habits of someone who has achieved what you aspire to achieve. Accountability partners play a similarly critical role. Accountability transforms intentions into action. It's easy to say, I'm going to exercise every day, or I'm going to launch this project, but without someone tracking your progress and checking in, it's easy to slip back into old patterns. Accountability partners help you maintain consistency, provide encouragement when you struggle, and celebrate victories with you when you succeed. This social support strengthens both discipline and motivation because it externalizes the commitment. When you know someone is watching, someone cares, and someone believes in your potential, it becomes much harder to quit. Your environment also includes the emotional and mental atmosphere you cultivate. This is perhaps the most overlooked factor in personal transformation. Negativity, doubt, self-criticism, and fear create toxic mental environments that stifle progress. On the other hand, optimism, gratitude, and positive self-talk create fertile ground for growth. You must be deliberate about the mental narratives you allow into your mind. This includes challenging limiting beliefs, replacing self-doubt with evidence of capability, and consciously choosing thoughts that align with the person you are becoming. Over time, this mental conditioning becomes automatic, shaping how you respond to challenges and opportunities alike. Consider the impact of culture and community. The norms, values, and behaviors of the larger groups you participate in, whether it's your workplace, your neighborhood, or your social circles, can either support or hinder your growth. Being in an environment that values ambition, accountability, and personal development encourages you to raise your standards and adopt similar behaviors. Conversely, environments where complacency, negativity, or mediocrity dominate can subtly undermine your efforts, no matter how disciplined or motivated you are. Part of building a supportive environment is intentionally seeking communities and groups that reinforce the habits, mindset, and values you aspire to embody. Technology also shapes your environment in ways that are easy to overlook, but incredibly impactful. The apps you use, the media you consume, and the digital spaces you inhabit all influence your thinking, energy, and behavior. Social media, for instance, can either inspire you, connect you to valuable communities, and expose you to new ideas, or it can drain your energy, amplify comparison, and reinforce fear and doubt. By curating your digital environment, unsubscribing from distractions, and following sources that uplift, teach, and challenge you, you create a virtual space that mirrors the supportive physical and social environment you are building. Stories of transformation often highlight the importance of environment. Think about someone who wanted to break free from unhealthy habits. Simply telling themselves to change was not enough. They had to remove temptations, surround themselves with supportive friends, join a group of like-minded individuals, and create systems that made the healthy choice easier than the old destructive habits. Or consider an aspiring entrepreneur who wanted to grow their business. Success didn't come from sheer willpower alone. It came from joining mastermind groups, learning from mentors, surrounding themselves with other driven individuals, and immersing themselves in an environment that fostered creativity, accountability, and action. These examples illustrate a universal truth. Your environment either multiplies your efforts or undermines them. Building a supportive environment also requires intentionality and courage. It may mean distancing yourself from relationships that no longer serve you, setting boundaries with people or situations that drain your energy, or restructuring your life in ways that prioritize growth over comfort. These decisions can be uncomfortable and even unpopular at times, but they are necessary for transformation. Becoming unstoppable is not a passive process. It requires designing an environment that continuously nudges you toward your highest potential. Even when it challenges you, intentional environment building includes celebrating progress as well. When you create rituals, habits, and spaces that acknowledge and reinforce small wins, you cultivate a feedback loop that accelerates growth. This could be as simple as journaling achievements, having weekly reflection sessions, or celebrating milestones with supportive friends or mentors. By embedding recognition and encouragement into your environment, you reinforce behaviors that compound over time, much like the principle we discussed in the previous keynote. Another subtle but powerful element is emotional safety. In a supportive environment, you feel safe to take risks, make mistakes, and push beyond comfort zones without fear of judgment or ridicule. This sense of safety is critical because personal transformation requires experimentation and vulnerability. Fear of criticism or shame can paralyze action, but a supportive environment provides the psychological foundation to try new approaches, fail, learn, and try again. It's the environment that tells you implicitly or explicitly, you can take this step. We believe in your potential. Finally, building a supportive environment is not a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. People change, circumstances shift, and the world around you evolves. To maintain an environment that supports your growth, you must continuously evaluate the influences, structures, and relationships in your life. Ask yourself regularly, are the people I spend time with helping me become who I want to be? Does my physical and digital environment foster focus, creativity, and action? Am I part of communities and groups that encourage growth, accountability, and positivity? Adjusting and refining your environment is as critical as any personal habit or strategy because it amplifies everything else you do. Once you have clarity, have begun stacking small wins, faced fear head on, and surrounded yourself with a supportive environment. The next essential key to becoming unstoppable is mastering self-discipline. If clarity gives you direction, small wins give you momentum. Courage allows you to move forward, and your environment gives you support. Self-discipline is the engine that keeps you moving, especially on days when motivation is fleeting or circumstances are challenging. Self-discipline is the bridge between intention and results, between dreams and reality. It is what separates those who occasionally take action from those who consistently achieve extraordinary outcomes. Self-discipline begins with the recognition that motivation is unreliable. Motivation is a feeling. It fluctuates daily, hourly, even by the minute. Some days you wake up energized and ready to conquer the world. Other days you feel drained, distracted, or doubtful. If you rely solely on motivation to pursue your goals, you will inevitably fall short. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is a choice and a habit. It is the commitment to take action, regardless of how you feel, and to follow through on your plans consistently. Discipline transforms dreams into tangible results because it does not wait for perfect conditions or fleeting bursts of inspiration. It acts anyway. The foundation of self-discipline is creating routines and systems that support your goals. Successful people don't leave their progress to chance. They design their days intentionally. They structure their mornings to prioritize high-value tasks, set aside dedicated time for learning, planning, and executing, and create boundaries that protect their focus. These routines are not rigid rules meant to restrict freedom. Rather, they are frameworks that free your energy for the most important work. Discipline thrives in an environment where habits are clear, systems are in place, and distractions are minimized. When you automate the right behaviors, self-discipline becomes easier to sustain because the environment itself reinforces action. A critical aspect of mastering self-discipline is learning to delay gratification. Life is full of temptations, distractions, and opportunities to take the easier, more comfortable path. Immediate pleasure often comes at the expense of long-term growth. Choosing discipline over comfort is rarely easy, but it is always necessary. It might mean waking up an hour earlier to work on your goals, choosing to prepare a healthy meal instead of indulging in convenience, or spending time developing a skill instead of scrolling endlessly on social media. Each act of delayed gratification strengthens the discipline muscle and reinforces the pattern of consistent action. Over time, the cumulative effect of these choices transforms your habits, your capabilities, and ultimately your life. Self-discipline also involves learning to manage your energy, not just your time. High achievers understand that productivity is not about working longer hours, but about working in alignment with your natural rhythms, focus cycles, and energy levels. Mastering self-discipline requires you to identify when you are most alert and capable, and then intentionally schedule your highest value activities during those periods. It means eliminating distractions that deplete your focus, taking care of your body through proper nutrition, movement, and rest, and creating routines that sustain energy rather than drain it. Discipline is not simply about willpower, it's about optimizing your systems so that action flows naturally. Another key component of self-discipline is accountability. Even the most disciplined individuals recognize the power of having someone to track, measure, and reinforce their progress. Accountability is the external scaffolding that supports your internal commitment. When someone else is aware of your goals and progress, your commitment becomes stronger because you are not only accountable to yourself, but also to others who care about your success. This principle is why mentorship, coaching, and peer accountability groups are so effective in accelerating personal transformation. Accountability transforms intentions into consistent action, which is the essence of discipline. Self-discipline is also about embracing discomfort. Just as fear requires courage, discipline requires endurance. Growth rarely occurs in comfort zones. The path to becoming unstoppable is paved with choices that challenge your habits, stretch your patience, and demand persistence. It might be pushing through fatigue during a workout, completing a project even when you don't feel inspired, or having difficult conversations that are necessary for personal or professional growth. The more you consistently choose action over ease, the stronger your discipline becomes, and the less resistance can hold you back. Discipline is built through repetition, persistence, and a willingness to endure the discomfort of growth. Setting boundaries is another crucial aspect of mastering self-discipline. Every moment spent on low-value activities, distractions, or negative influences is energy diverted from the pursuit of your goals. Discipline requires you to protect your time, energy, and focus from being eroded by external pressures or internal temptations. This might mean saying no to social invitations, turning off notifications, or creating dedicated work and reflection periods. Boundaries are not about isolation. They are about prioritizing what truly matters and ensuring that your daily actions align with your long-term vision. Every boundary you establish reinforces your discipline and supports the momentum you are building. Self-discipline is reinforced by intentional tracking and measurement. What gets measured gets managed. Keeping track of your progress, reviewing your actions, and adjusting when necessary is a form of disciplined reflection. It allows you to identify what is working, where adjustments are needed, and how far you have come. Without measurement, it's easy to fall into complacency, lose sight of goals, or allow resistance to creep back in unnoticed. The act of tracking progress is itself an exercise in discipline because it requires consistency, honesty, and a willingness to face reality even when it's uncomfortable. Stories of self-discipline illustrate its transformative power. Consider an entrepreneur who consistently invests time each day into learning new skills, reaching out to prospects, or refining their business plan. Their success is rarely about one brilliant idea or stroke of luck. It's about the relentless, disciplined application of effort over time. Or think of an individual pursuing fitness or health goals. Their progress comes not from occasional bursts of energy or fleeting motivation, but from consistent choices, daily workouts, mindful eating, and steady adherence to their plan. Self-discipline turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results because it compounds action over time, just as small wins compound into momentum. A critical insight about self-discipline is that it is not about perfection. It is not about never faltering, never feeling unmotivated, or never making mistakes. Discipline is about consistency, resilience, and recommitment. Everyone will have days when they fall short, when they skip a workout, miss a deadline, or feel unmotivated. The disciplined person does not use these moments as excuses to quit. Instead, they treat them as temporary setbacks, learn from them, and recommit to the path. Mastering self-discipline is about building the muscle of persistence, not about eliminating human imperfection. Another aspect of self-discipline is understanding the connection between identity and action. People who are disciplined see themselves as the type of person who follows through, who honors commitments, and who takes consistent action toward meaningful goals. Your identity shapes your behavior. When you act in alignment with the person you want to become, each disciplined choice reinforces that identity. Over time, discipline becomes an expression of who you are rather than a burdensome effort you must force upon yourself. This alignment between identity and action creates a powerful feedback loop that sustains growth and resilience. Finally, mastering self-discipline is a lifelong practice. It is not something you achieve once and forget. Life is dynamic, challenges will evolve, and new goals will arise. Discipline is the constant that allows you to navigate change, maintain focus, and continue building momentum despite setbacks. It is the quiet force that keeps you moving forward on the days you feel tired, overwhelmed, or uncertain. When you master self-discipline, you unlock the ability to act consistently, overcome resistance, and build the life you have envisioned step by step, day by day. As you gain clarity, build momentum through small wins, confront fear, cultivate a supportive environment, and master self-discipline, there is one final but critical principle that will sustain your transformation: celebrating progress, not perfection. Many people sabotage their growth by waiting for perfection, by believing that unless everything is flawless, their efforts are meaningless. This mindset is not only discouraging, but also paralyzing. The truth is that transformation is a messy, imperfect, and non-linear process, and if you insist on perfection, you will often miss the beauty and power of consistent progress. Recognizing and celebrating the small victories along the way is essential for maintaining motivation, building confidence, and reinforcing the habits and behaviors that lead to lasting success. Celebrating progress begins with awareness. Most people move through life so quickly that they fail to notice how far they've come. They focus only on the gap between where they are and where they want to be, ignoring the small steps they've taken toward growth. Awareness is about pausing to reflect on the journey, acknowledging each step forward, and understanding that these incremental actions accumulate into extraordinary outcomes. It might be as simple as recognizing that you showed up for your workout 3 times this week, or that you finally completed a project you had been procrastinating on for months. Awareness of progress fuels gratitude, which in turn fuels motivation. When you see what you've accomplished, you gain energy to keep moving forward. Part of celebrating progress is redefining your standards of success. Many people measure achievement against an unrealistic, absolute standard: perfect performance, flawless results, or instant transformation. This mindset leads to frustration, discouragement, and sometimes even giving up altogether. To celebrate progress, you must shift your focus from perfection to growth. Success is not a fixed point. It is the accumulation of consistent effort over time. It is the habit of showing up, doing the work, and improving incrementally. By valuing growth over perfection, you cultivate resilience and sustain momentum even when outcomes are not yet ideal. The practice of celebrating progress also strengthens self-confidence. When you acknowledge the effort you've invested, you begin to internalize the truth that you are capable of change. Each milestone, no matter how small, becomes evidence of your ability to act, adapt, and grow. Confidence does not emerge from instant results. It emerges from repeated action and the recognition that you are moving in the right direction. By celebrating progress, you reinforce your self-belief and strengthen your sense of agency over your life. Confidence, once built in this way, becomes a powerful motivator that propels you to take bigger risks and embrace greater challenges. Storytelling illustrates the power of celebrating progress. Consider an individual who set out to improve their health. At first, their changes were small: drinking more water, taking daily walks, preparing healthier meals. These steps may have seemed insignificant at the time, but as they consistently followed through, they began to notice changes: increased energy, better sleep, improved mood, and gradual physical transformation. By celebrating each of these small victories, they reinforced positive habits, built momentum, and remain committed to the long-term goal of health and vitality. Without celebrating these steps, it would have been easy to feel discouraged, to focus only on how far they still had to go, and to give up. Celebrating progress is also essential in the pursuit of professional and personal goals. In the context of building a business, writing a book, or launching a project, the milestones along the way often feel less glamorous than the end result. Yet recognizing and celebrating these intermediate successes, the first client you land, the first chapter you finish, the first product you launch, reinforces the behaviors and choices that lead to the ultimate achievement. When you celebrate progress, you are teaching yourself to value consistency, perseverance, and the journey itself rather than simply the outcome. Another important aspect of celebrating progress is reframing mistakes and setbacks. Transformation is rarely a straight line. There will be days when you fall short, when fear creeps back in, or when circumstances disrupt your routine. Instead of viewing these moments as failures, see them as part of the process, as learning opportunities, and as evidence that you are pushing beyond your comfort zone. Celebrating progress does not mean ignoring challenges. It means acknowledging what you have accomplished despite them. By celebrating growth in the face of difficulty, you reinforce resilience, cultivate a positive mindset, and strengthen your commitment to keep moving forward. Reflection is a practical tool for celebrating progress. Taking time each week to review what you've accomplished, the challenges you've overcome, and the steps you've taken toward your goals allows you to see your growth more clearly. Reflection provides context, perspective, and insight, helping you recognize patterns of success and areas for improvement. It also gives you the opportunity to intentionally celebrate your wins, reinforcing motivation and commitment. Reflection combined with celebration is a powerful practice that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary transformation over time. Celebrating progress also fosters gratitude. Gratitude is a mindset that shifts your focus from what is missing to what has been achieved. When you regularly acknowledge the steps you've taken, the obstacles you've overcome, and the growth you've experienced, you cultivate a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. This sense of abundance energizes you, encourages persistence, and reduces stress and self-criticism. Gratitude transforms effort into joy and achievement into fulfillment, which is essential for sustaining long-term transformation. It's important to integrate celebration into your habits. This might be as simple as journaling small victories, verbally acknowledging your progress, or sharing your wins with a supportive friend or mentor. Rituals of celebration reinforce progress psychologically and emotionally, making it more likely that positive behaviors will continue. When your brain associates effort with recognition, reward, and growth, consistency becomes easier to maintain. Celebration is not indulgent, it is strategic. It strengthens the compounding effect of small wins, reinforces self-discipline, and sustains momentum through the inevitable challenges of the 90-day transformation journey. Mindset also plays a crucial role in celebrating progress. The growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and effort, underpins the ability to celebrate incremental improvement. People with a growth mindset understand that progress is a process, that mastery comes over time, and that every action contributes to future success. By embracing this mindset, you stop seeking perfection as proof of your worth and start valuing the effort and learning embedded in each step. Celebrating progress reinforces the growth mindset, creating a virtuous cycle of learning, action, and achievement. Stories of extraordinary achievers demonstrate the power of progress over perfection. Many of the world's most successful people did not achieve instant perfection, They experienced setbacks, made mistakes, and often fell short of their own expectations. What distinguished them was their ability to recognize and celebrate each step forward. Whether it was the first draft of a book, the first prototype of a product, or the first public speech, they acknowledged progress, learned from mistakes, and maintained momentum. By celebrating progress, they remained motivated, resilient, and focused on the bigger vision rather than being derailed by the pursuit of flawless execution. Finally, celebrating progress fosters joy in the journey. Transformation is often thought of as a future-oriented pursuit. Waiting for the day when everything is perfect, waiting for the moment when the goal is achieved. But this perspective overlooks the richness of the process. Life is lived in the steps, the efforts, the incremental improvements, and the moments of growth. By celebrating progress, you cultivate joy in the present, recognize the value of your efforts, and sustain the energy needed to keep moving forward, even when the ultimate goal is still ahead. As we've explored together, becoming unstoppable is not about luck, timing, or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about clarity, consistent action, courage, environment, discipline, and celebrating progress. You've learned that clarity is power. It gives your life direction and allows you to focus on what truly matters. You've seen that small wins compound, that every intentional action, no matter how minor, fuels momentum and builds unstoppable energy. You face the reality that fear and resistance are inevitable. But courage and action allow you to move forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. You've understood the importance of surrounding yourself with a supportive environment, people, systems, and communities that lift you higher rather than hold you back. You've discovered that self-discipline is the engine that sustains progress, even when motivation fades, and that mastering your habits and routines ensures consistency and results. And finally, you've recognized that celebrating progress, not perfection, keeps you motivated, resilient, and grateful for every step of the journey. Now it's time to put all of these principles into action. The 90-day plan is not a suggestion, it's a commitment to yourself, a promise that you will no longer drift, that you will take intentional steps each day toward your dreams. Each day matters. Each action matters. Each choice matters. You have the tools, the mindset, and the framework to transform your life. But it all begins with the decision to start. Imagine where you could be in 90 days if you applied these principles consistently. Imagine the growth, the confidence, the clarity, and the results. Imagine waking up one day not only closer to your dreams, but living with the energy, focus, and purpose that makes you unstoppable. That life is possible. It's not reserved for someone else or for some distant future. It's waiting for you to claim it, starting today. So take a deep breath, write down your goals, commit to your small wins, face your fears, curate your environment, practice relentless self-discipline, and celebrate every step of your progress. Your transformation doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start when circumstances are perfect. It starts right now, in this moment. The 90-day journey will be challenging, but it will also be exhilarating, life-changing, and empowering. You are capable of far more than you realize, and with focus, courage, and commitment, there is nothing that can stop you. The life you've dreamed of is not waiting for luck or timing, it's waiting for your action. Begin today, and in 90 days, look back and realize that you are no longer the same person who started this journey. You are stronger, wiser, bolder, and unstoppable.